You stayed up way too late last night. Again. Not because you wanted to, but because your brain simply refused to stop. Maybe you were replaying a conversation you had 3 years ago. Maybe you were solving a problem no one even asked you to solve. Or maybe you were just lying there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything and nothing all at once. And this morning, you forgot where you put your keys. You missed a text. You walked into a room and completely forgot why you went in there. So you told yourself the same thing you always do, that you're scattered, disorganized, not as smart as people seem to think you are. But what if I told you that every single one of those things, the late nights, the overthinking, the forgetfulness, the constant feeling that you're somehow faking it, are not signs of a broken mind? What if they're actually signs of an extraordinarily powerful one? Science has been quietly building a very different picture of what high intelligence looks like from the inside. And it looks nothing like the calm, confident genius in the white lab coat. It looks a lot more like you. Here are 7 habits that researchers have linked to genuinely high IQ. And by the end of this video, I think you're going to see yourself very differently. Habit 1. Self-doubt. Let's start with the one that probably hurts the most. You know that feeling. You walk into a room full of people. Everyone seems so sure of themselves. And quietly, somewhere in the back of your mind, a small voice whispers, "I don't actually belong here." That feeling has a name. It's called imposter syndrome. And research keeps confirming the same uncomfortable irony. The more capable someone actually is, the stronger that feeling tends to be. Here's why. When you deeply understand something, you can also see its full complexity. You see the layers, you see the gaps, you see everything you still don't know, and that awareness makes you feel small. The person who hasn't thought deeply about something, they feel completely confident because they can't see what they're missing. Psychologists call this the Dunning-Kruger effect. The less someone knows, the more certain they feel. The more someone knows, the more they realize how much is still beyond them. So if you've spent your whole life feeling like you were one question away from being found out, I want you to hear this clearly. That feeling is not a sign that you're a fraud. It's a sign that you think deeply enough to see your own limits, and that takes real intelligence. The smartest people in most rooms are usually the ones quietly wondering if they're smart enough to be in the room. You're not alone in that. And here's the thing, that self-doubt doesn't disappear at night. For a lot of high IQ people, it follows them straight to bed, which is exactly where habit number 2 begins. Habit 2, night owls. Be honest, when does your brain actually come alive? For a lot of people watching this, the answer is somewhere around midnight. The house gets quiet, the world slows down, and suddenly your mind is the clearest it's been all day. You're not alone, and you're not broken. Evolutionary psychologist Satoshi Kanazawa studied the sleep patterns of thousands of people and found something fascinating. People with higher IQ scores consistently go to bed later and wake up later than average. Our bodies are wired to follow a natural 24-hour rhythm, shaped by millions of years of evolution. Most living things follow that rhythm without question, but the ability to override it, to stay up and think, to read, to create, to explore ideas in the stillness of the night, that turns out to be a more recently evolved capacity, and it appears far more often in people with higher intelligence. So if society's 9-to-5 schedule has always felt like it was designed for someone else, it might be because it genuinely was. Your brain just runs on a different clock. Now, all those late-night thoughts have to go somewhere. And for high IQ individuals, they often find their way out in the most unexpected way. Habit 3. Talking to themselves. You're alone. You're working through something, and before you even realize it, you're saying it out loud. Maybe you've caught yourself doing it. Maybe someone else pointed it out and made you feel self-conscious about it. You don't need to be. Research on self-directed speech shows that talking to yourself is actually a sophisticated cognitive tool. It supports executive function, which is your brain's ability to plan, focus, and solve problems. It helps organize complex thoughts. It even helps regulate emotions in difficult moments. For high IQ individuals, language isn't just something you use to talk to other people. It's something you use to think. Speaking out loud takes what's swirling around inside and gives it shape. It slows the mind down just enough to catch what might otherwise slip away. So the next time someone raises an eyebrow at you for muttering to yourself, just smile. You're not talking to yourself. You're processing. But here's the other side of a brain that never stops processing. It also never fully stops worrying. And that brings us to one of the most misunderstood habits on this entire list. Habit 4. Anxiety and rumination. This one is harder to talk about, but it matters. Studies have found a consistent link between high verbal intelligence and elevated anxiety. Not because smart people have harder lives, but because their brains are built to anticipate. The same mind that can analyze a complex problem from 10 different angles will also run through 10 different versions of what could go wrong. It builds scenarios. It prepares for outcomes. It runs simulations that most people's brains never bother with. Psychologists call this rumination. That habit of replaying conversations, revisiting old decisions, rehearsing future moments that haven't happened yet. And it can feel exhausting. For most people, a hard conversation ends when it ends. For a high IQ mind, it continues long after. It gets turned over, examined, questioned. I want you to know this isn't a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's what happens when you have a brain that's wired to detect and prepare for risk. That same sensitivity is part of what makes you perceptive. It's part of what makes you careful, thoughtful, and someone people trust with important things. It just also means your mind is rarely quiet. And if that has made life feel heavier than it should, there's a real reason for that. You've been carrying more than most people ever realize. And when a brain is working that hard, it naturally starts making trade-offs, including this one. Habit 5. Forgetting small things. Where did you put your phone? Did you already reply to that? What were you about to do just now? If you have a sharp mind but a terrible memory for everyday details, you're in good company. Here's what's actually happening. Your brain has a limited amount of attention to give at any moment, and a mind that's deeply engaged in complex, abstract thinking is already operating near full capacity. Small, routine details, where you parked, whether you locked the door, simply don't make the cut. Your brain made a judgment call, and the car key's lost. Researchers who study working memory have noted that this kind of selective forgetfulness isn't a cognitive deficit. It's a prioritization system. The mind focuses on what it finds most meaningful and lets the rest fade into the background. So if you can hold a layered, nuanced idea in your head for hours but forget to respond to a message, your brain isn't failing you. It just has different priorities than your inbox does. And when it comes to expressing those ideas, high IQ individuals have a very particular relationship with language. One that might surprise you. Habit 6. Rich vocabulary, including the words you're not supposed to say. Here's one that might make you laugh. Research published in the journal Language Sciences found that people who comfortably use taboo language, including profanity, tend to score higher on measures of verbal intelligence. The old assumption is that swearing means you've run out of better words, but the data says the opposite. People with rich vocabularies treat all words as tools. They reach for the one that most precisely fits the emotional weight of the moment. And sometimes the most accurate word is the one polite company prefers you leave out. This isn't about being crude. It's about being fluent. True linguistic intelligence means having access to the full range of expression and knowing exactly when and how to use it. Habit 7. Sensory overload. Loud restaurants, open-plan offices, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Too many conversations happening at once. For many high IQ individuals, these environments don't just feel uncomfortable. They feel genuinely overwhelming. And there's a clear reason for that. A brain that processes more information analytically also tends to take in more sensory input than average. The nervous system is more finely tuned, more sensitive. What most people experience as background noise, a high IQ brain registers as active, competing input that demands attention. This is why so many people with high intelligence seek out quiet, controlled spaces to work. It's not being antisocial. It's not being difficult. It's a genuine neurological need for an environment where the signal isn't buried under all that noise. If you've ever walked into a crowded room and felt an immediate urge to walk back out, your nervous system was protecting you. It was doing exactly what it was built to do. And when you hold all 7 of these habits together, something becomes very clear. You overthink. You stay up too late. You talk to yourself. You forget small things. You feel anxious for no clear reason. You get overwhelmed in loud rooms, and somewhere along the way, you started to believe those were all evidence that something was wrong with you. They're not. Every one of those habits is your brain doing exactly what a high-powered brain does. It processes more. It feels more. It simulates more. It holds itself to a standard that most people never even reach for. That's not a malfunction. That's the cost of running a very rare kind of mind. The genius we were sold in movies and textbooks was always calm, always certain, always in control. But real intelligence, the kind that researchers actually study, looks tired sometimes. It looks doubtful. It looks like someone who needs quiet to function and stays up too late because their brain simply won't clock out. It looks like you. And if you've spent years feeling like you were too much, too scattered, too anxious, too intense, I want you to sit with this for a moment. There is a real scientific reason your inner world has always felt louder than everyone else's. That reason has been there your whole life. You were never broken. You were just wired differently. If this video made you feel seen, you're exactly who this channel is for. Minimal Psychology is here every week to help you understand the science behind how you think, feel, and move through the world. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one.